In my spare time, we're bringing the luck of the Irish home for Christmas. We're going to start with a board of black walnut. I got this from a friend of mine who has a sawmill, roughly 3/4 of an inch thick, about 6.5 inches wide, and about 18 inches long. I created a board already and I'm going to use it as a template and just trace out the handle because I was happy with the way the first one came out. I took the board over to the bandsaw and I started doing some rough cuts. I realized the blade I have in the bandsaw is a little too thick for the fine detail cuts I needed. So off camera, I took it over to the jigsaw to finish up the handle. When I was done with the jigsaw, I got my Forstner bit and my drill and I drilled out the hole inside the handle. When I was done, I took it over to my buddy's house who has a CNC machine. He made fast work by carving out the shamrocks and the pieces of wood I needed. I was doing multiple projects, so he did a total of 4 shamrocks for me. Once the shamrocks were completed, it was time to start pouring some epoxy. The epoxy I used here was art resin. It was very easy to use. It was a 1-to-1 mixture. These cups make it real easy also. Everything's marked out for you. When stirring your epoxy, you want to make sure you stir for at least 3 to 4 minutes, making sure you scrape the sides and the bottom. The proper amount of stirring is crucial when you're pouring epoxy. Now it's time to start adding some color. I have a variety pack of mica powder that I use. I added 3 separate colors because I was looking for a deep green that I didn't have inside the package. Luckily, after stirring them all together, it was exactly what I was looking for. Again, stirring here is crucial. You want to make sure you get everything blended properly. The deep green I was going for is exactly what I got. I guess it's just luck. Now for the fun part. Pouring the epoxy into the cutouts. You don't have to be too graceful here. If you pour too much, you're going to be sanding off the excess anyways. I made a lot of epoxy because I had 4 separate shamrocks to fill, and I still had some extra. Then I just took a screw and swirled all the colors together while they were inside the mold. Then it was time to get rid of all the bubbles. One way to do this is just running a torch flame about 4 to 6 inches away from the epoxy, and all the bubbles would just disappear. About a day or 2 later, the epoxy's hardened and it's time to sand. We're starting with 80 grit just to knock down all the excess epoxy. Once the extra epoxy is knocked down, you're starting to see what the board is going to look like. We went to 120 just to smooth everything out before we started to hand sand. At this point, everything's starting to come together. Then we went to a 320 grit, hand sanded. I don't run a router on my corners. I like everything to kind of stay organic. So I just knocked the edges down. And then we add water to raise the grain. This also gives you a preview of what the board is going to look like. As you can see with the black walnut, everything darkens up really nice. And the green epoxy really pops. After everything dries, we take a 400 grit sandpaper just to smooth out everything. And this really leaves like a glass finish. Then it's time to add some mineral oil. I pour the mineral oil on the shamrock and use a 2000 grit sandpaper to work it in. Once I'm done there, I add more oil to the board, and we really get to see the beauty of the grain of this black walnut. It really amazes me to see this black walnut come to life once we add the oil. I usually do 2 coats of mineral oil, and once everything is dry, I add beeswax to make sure that it's sealed properly and it's food safe. And here's the finished product. I've gotten some great feedback on it, and I've already got plans to make some more. Well, I hope you enjoyed everything. Have a great day.